is really hard for you to be judged favorably if your camera's a little fuzzy, or if your face is not well lit, or you're not close enough to the camera so it doesn't look like a close-up. You can tell yourself that it's not putting you at a disadvantage, but it is.
It affects us. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of Talent Agent Talk, where we are bringing you educational lessons and real life stories behind the scenes of TV and film. I'm your host and a talent agent, Jason Lockhart, and today we have our first ever feature film director, not just an actor, Steven LaMorte.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, dude, I can't believe that you were sitting at this seat.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm the first ever, and hopefully not the last.
The first ever, definitely not the last, but the best. Let's say that.
That's right. Well, that's so far. I'm definitely the best director you've ever had on this show.
By far. So, I think it's really cool that we have you here because our audience is mostly actors, and now they get to really experience kind of like what you're looking for when you're casting, or when you're working with an actor. So I'd love to kind of ask some questions about stuff like that, if that's cool.
Totally.
Well, let's talk about your movie coming out.
Yes,
Screamboat. All right.
Screamboat. Steamboat Willie horror comedy coming April 2nd to theaters.
Is there an origin story to like how and why you wanted to make this?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's all my wife's fault. For 100%. We just finished The Mean One, which is our horror parody based on everyone's favorite green grouch in a Santa suit, whose name I'm not allowed to say.
Can I say it?
No.
Okay.
So we're going to make this. We made this horror parody, and it did what it did, and it went sort of all around the world, and had this really amazing viral success. It was like a perfect storm of like the right movie at the right time. And when it was done, people kept asking us what we wanted to do next, and I knew I wanted to do another adaptation. Right? I like to take familiar things and sort of turn them on their side, give them an action twist or a horror twist. And I couldn't find a character that I liked. And Amy said, "Well, why don't you say, the hell with a character forcing a square peg into a round hole? What's a movie you've always wanted to make?" And I said, "Well, I'm from Staten Island, New York. I've always wanted to do a horror movie set on the Staten Island Ferry. I used to, I've lived on Staten Island my whole childhood. And then when I went to college in New York City, I would commute back and forth on the boat. And, New York City never sleeps. So I've spent a lot of late nights on the ferry coming home from schoolwork and nothing else. And so I'm on the ferry at 3:00 in the morning, and you see just the craziest stuff, and you're trapped on this boat for 30 minutes. And at late night, the boat gets really small and the crowd gets really weird. So I thought, okay, well, I've always wanted to make a horror movie on the Staten Island Ferry, so I guess we could start there. And I started doing some research, and I saw that there was a chance Steamboat Willie would come into the public domain. And I said, well, the ferry's a boat. Steamboat Willie is a character. If he were to come into the public domain, what an amazing opportunity. One thing led to another. They let the copyright expire. I did a little bit of research, and it turns out the Staten Island Ferry was a steamboat when it first started in the 1800s. Wow. And I'm like, it's perfect. That's going to be our movie. And now here we are.
Wow. And then I remember working on the auditions with you guys. How many submissions would you say you got? Nationwide
for
like 20 roles,
easily 10,000.
10,000.
And it's extremely daunting to go through all of those headshots, and just like, how do you filter that down to a manageable number of tapes to even request,
right?
And then like, how do you filter that down to a manageable number of characters that you want to see? I mean, sometimes we don't know what we're looking for. That's the beauty of casting. And in addition to being an amazing actor, Amy is also a kick-ass producer, and she spearheaded the casting. And, she's seen every iteration of the script, and she got a sense of sort of what I'm looking for. But I really wanted the film to reflect New York City as I saw it, as a person who lived in New York and partied in Brooklyn and went to school in Manhattan and, got some amazing food in the Bronx. Like, I really wanted to do that version of New York. So there were some characters where it wasn't that I didn't know what I wanted. There were some characters where I wanted sort of New York to speak to me, the actor to sort of speak to me. So we have this like one awesome, badass, tough guy police officer. And I had in my head who I wanted, like sort of what I kind of wanted from that character. But there's also a world in which we could go the complete other way and take this big macho guy character, this big sort of tough guy who's got this huge, amazing monologue, and give it to a woman. and have her sort of have this expletive laden, like really make her sort of that tough New York City street cop. And it worked. We saw a lot of amazing women for that role. So casting was really, really tricky because maybe it just says passenger number 5 and they have to, say a joke or say something crazy. And it could be anybody, any ethnicity, any age. And being able to sort of build a cast that reflected my city was a fun challenge and something I think we pulled off.
All right, listen up. Our Booked It Challenge is so close. Oh my goodness. Our Booked It Challenge is one of my favorite challenges that we do each year. And I'll tell you, when I first created this challenge, I was a little bit nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to create something where like people actually have to book jobs? Like that's not something in our control. But I took a leap of faith. I created the challenge. I called it the Booked It Challenge. And wouldn't you know, every single year, people book jobs. It's crazy. So this year, it could be you. This challenge is very simple. We're together for 4 weeks. We bring in an industry pro all 4 weeks, and we work on auditions. I make it so simple, so easy. 1, I give you some audition techniques to help you book the job once you have the audition. And the second is I give you some techniques to get more auditions. One of the things I've realized in being an actor over the last 20 years is that if you get more opportunities, you have more chances to book the job. So we need to increase our chances, and then the chances that we do get, we need to increase the quality of our auditions. So we're going to teach you exactly how to do all of those things. So sign up for our Booked It Challenge. It's only $37, and there's a $5 off promo in the description. So the link is there. The promo is there. Head there right now and come join us for our incredible Booked It Challenge.
Oh, absolutely. And you could read it as an agent. I could read the character descriptions on the breakdown, and I could feel the presence of New York City. It's almost like I started telling some of the actors, like, New York is almost a character in this film. Mm-hmm. The city, the skyline, the essence. Was there anything when you were looking at tapes and with Amy? Was there anything that actors did that kind of stood out to you? Like, oh, I'm interested in them for that reason.
Probably people that made strong choices. Right, I think is something that always stands out to me because we're casting 20 roles. So if you're coming in and you're coming in to read the captain, well, if you make a strong choice, all right, that's definitely not right for the captain, but you don't know that there's a deckhand that's that, and you need to come back and read for that. And I would say at least a quarter of our cast were people who were called back, were great in the room, we saw them in person, or did an amazing Zoom callback, and then we're like, can you read this other, sort of a cold read, but we gave them some time. We're like, can you read this other part? And a lot of times they ended up booking it because they're so great and they brought so much to the audition. And especially when you're in the room and you can see their energy and their vibe, and I can look at the monitor and get a sense of like, you're coming in for the mechanic, but I think you should be the captain. Can you read this part? And even though it was a cold read, they booked it because we were able to see something in them because they made a strong choice. And then from a technical standpoint, I don't think anyone should be obligated to memorize lines or have an amazing self-tape setup, but it is really hard for you to be judged favorably if your camera's a little fuzzy or if your face is not well lit or you're not close enough to the camera so it doesn't look like a close-up. You can tell yourself that it's not putting you at a disadvantage, but it is.
It affects the subconscious.
Exactly. It's completely subconscious. And, you see blue backdrop, nice lighting. Blue backdrop, nice lighting. Blue backdrop, nice lighting. White wall, shadow on your face. You've already set yourself back just slightly, even if from a ethical standpoint, it doesn't matter. I just want to see the best actor. So that's the other thing that I think it makes a difference because you don't want to be put on an uneven footing for a reason that has nothing to do with your time or talent.
And you do have control over that. You don't have control what they're looking for, but you do have control over your setup.
Definitely.
And what's interesting about the big choice thing is I feel like I hear that a lot and we talk about that. Like, do you have an example of what's a big choice that you responded favorably to as opposed to maybe a big choice you're like, not right?
Well, I think a big choice that I definitely I like when people make strong character choices, but if I wrote the script, I definitely want you to say those words. So, someone I've had, you see over and over and again, someone says, you're hearing the same line over and over and over. So you could change it and maybe mildly annoy or frustrate me, or you can change the intention, play against the line, and it's a comedy. So maybe that line that was supposed to be loving, you play sarcastic. And like, if it makes me laugh, even if it's not right, I'm like, oh, this guy's got instinct. So there's some things you can see when people read the script and they, you do your work, you break it down. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be memorized, although it helps. Being able to look at an actor who gave it some thought. Sometimes on a TV show, if you're playing the nurse that hands someone the X-ray, we know what that's supposed to be, right? You're the cop that finds the body. It's pretty straightforward. They probably don't want you to make a strong choice, but I'm making a theatrical comedy feature film. If you don't know the tone of the movie or you haven't seen the kind of work I've done, you got to try to pull it from the script. But it's a comedy. So if you're coming in and you're playing like right down the middle Law and Order cop, you don't pop. You're not going to stand out. And I've definitely seen people come in where we had there's one role in Screamboat that was written for a big tough guy, totally different part, right? And is written to be able to like stare down another big tough character. And it was written for someone who could literally look eye to eye with that person. And we saw this dude and he came in for the audition and he's like short, like really short. And we're like, oh, not really short, but conceptually short for the role. And we're like, oh, okay, well, he took the time to come in. Zoom did him a favor. And, he still got to come in. And he brought so much to it. He played it like he had a Napoleon complex. And we're like, oh my God, this is way better than what's written, because he like took a swing. And I said, hey, let's try something with your eye line. Let's assume the guy you're talking to is as tall as the actor I cast. And he brought something to it that's like so much more magical than I could have ever written.
And he used what he had.
Because he used what he had.
His authenticity.
And it's like some of the best scenes in the movie. And everyone's like, oh man, this guy is great. I'm like, I could never have written what he did. And so it's a choice he made that just added to the movie for sure.
I love that. I love when an actor realizes the power they have to gift themselves and their artistry to a project and make the project better, as opposed to just like, how do I fit in? How do I get cast? How do I get a pat? No, like you have the power to like come in and potentially make it better, give them more than their money's worth,
Definitely. And that's, when
a great example.
When you're a director or a writer, you have in your head what you want it to be or what you think will work. And it's very technical. So obviously, this character has to do this, that character has to do that. So there's a lot of factors that go into it that have nothing that are like outside of the realm of we can't change this. But I do think there is an element of you are not brought on to do what's on the page. You're brought on to collaborate. And not every director wants to hear that the script is changed or, you're taking a tough guy and making them vulnerable. But I do think it's your opportunity and your obligation as an actor to like elevate the material, bring something to it. I mean, Michael Caine's version of Scrooge because he committed to it so much, it makes that like my favorite Christmas Carol is A Muppet's Christmas Carol. It's because of the acting. I mean, the writing is good and the puppets are amazing, but you're like, he made a choice, a really strong choice. And am I going to cry in a Muppets movie? It's something really special. And I think actors shouldn't be afraid to try to bring something to the movie while staying within the bounds of the script. We all agreed we're making this. It's a big, beautiful mosaic. If you change your puzzle piece, and it's not going to fit with the rest of the picture, then we're going to have a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say, I want to go to callbacks because I think that's a really interesting perspective to hear from a director. Mm-hmm. And since you're the first one in the hot seat, when you were doing callbacks, were you gravitating toward people who were taking direction, or were you giving direction even?
Yep. Yes, I always try to give direction or give an adjustment. I like to see what people bring to it for sure. And if they're doing a callback, it's because I saw something, a thread that I want to pull on. And a lot of times it's really helpful if an actor, if they wear the same thing so that I can remember who they were. It's obviously really frustrating when someone doesn't look like their headshot. So if I've seen the tape already and they get a call back and we're in person, you wear this, you didn't change your hair, you're wearing a hat. It's easier for me to remember what I liked about that tape. Because once the audition is done, if something really stood out to me, I'll remember. But otherwise, callback, you're starting from scratch. So I always try to give direction, but if I liked something about your audition, so maybe do that is helpful. Because if you come in and do something totally different now that we're in the room, then it's hard for me to remember why you came in the first place. And then if I want to see it bigger or smaller, or see let's pull on this thread, or if it's a chemistry read and we're putting people against each other, then we have the opportunity to sort of play and have fun with it. But the part of the callback is also the vibe of the person.
The human.
Right. Who am I going to be collaborating with? What's this relationship going to be like? Are you on set for a day? You don't know. You might be on set for a week. If we're doing a death scene, it might be one page. You could be there for 5 days, for sure, especially with the way that we do sort of the practical gore and stuff. So, do I want to be trapped on a boat with this person?
Yeah.
It definitely is a factor. I mean, I like to run a light set, but I come prepared. I expect people to come prepared. So every element of the callback, from the moment you walk in the door, even the communication that you've had with our team, whoever's corresponding, all of it factors into the decision, because there are some elements outside of your performance that could also negatively impact the show or positively. So really the whole callback is not to freak anybody out, but it's every element of it is considered when we're deciding which way we're going to go.
Sure. All right, so then moving to set
Mm-hmm.
and keeping it really positive. And without even naming names, was there any actor or any moments when you were working with actors on set when you felt like, I would work with this person again over and over and over because of something that they were doing?
It's a good...
Or like a feeling that they gave you?
You always remember the... when something works and you're sitting behind the monitor and you're like, oh, that's exactly the way I dreamed it would be. Or, oh, that's, I'm so surprised this is even better than I thought it could be. I think those moments really stand out. But, honestly, preparation, I think, goes a long way to me. Because when an actor shows up on time, they have their lines memorized. They're asking me questions that make me say like, oh, yes, you thought about this holistically. You looked at the whole movie and said, hey, in this later scene, that thing happens. Can I do this or can I try that? Or I had an idea about my wardrobe. If it's okay, I would love to. And I think like those conversations help me to feel like, oh, this is a collaborator, right? I want to have a working relationship where we are going to amplify each other's work. Some people get really method and they want to, they're running the lines on the backside of the boat, and I respect the hell out of that. And I have some people who are like, hey, can I run the lines with you? I have some joke ideas. Can we try that out? I'm like, oh, great. And you see the page is just riddled with notes. I'm like, I love this. I don't need to see them. I just I feel supported when you've come in and you've done your homework. And then you see it on screen, and it's the best magic trick is when you don't know what's happening, right? Are you super nervous, or did you work on this really, really hard? Do you magically, naturally sparkle because you're effervescent? On screen, I can't tell. It looks great. It works. But if I can see that actor is committed and really like wants to do a good job, wants to support the production, then you don't need to pick up garbage. But being on time and being prepared goes a long way. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna bring that person back. This is someone I want to work with more.
I love that. All right, I'm going to ask you a question completely unrelated to actors.
Fantastic. They're green today, but most days, black typically.
Okay. What's something that you love about directing? I'm genuinely curious.
Something I love about directing.
Like when you got up on a day to go be on that Staten Island ferry and do what you were about to do, like what made you love it? I know how good you are. Like I appreciate. I mean, that. I think you're brilliant. I'm happy to say it to millions of people.
Thank you.
But I want to know, like, what makes you love it? Because it's clear you do.
I do. I definitely love it. I direct every day of the week if I could. Although I have been reminded sleep is essential, so I should be sleeping. But most of the time, I prefer to be directing. I think the thing I love most is the surprise, right? Because film is controlled chaos. It has to be. You can't optimize or AI or you can't come up with a way to like perfectly make a film. Obviously, in an animated film, you have a little more control, but movies, we just don't know what's going to happen, right? I liken every film set to like the kite and the key in the thunderstorm, right? And we're trying to capture lightning in a bottle, and where all these people are coming together. We have a script. We think we know what it's going to be. Maybe they haven't met the actor. Maybe we have met the actor. We don't know what the wardrobe's going to be. With what we do with blood and gore, physics is it's going to do what it's going to do.
Yeah, who
We
knows
don't
where it's
know.
going?
And sometimes the blood's going to go here, blood's going to go there. Someone's going to give someone a look. They're going to remember something. We're going to have a moment, and you're going to be surprised and wowed, and it's captured, and we have it. And stage plays are amazing. It's there and it's gone every night. It's a new thing. But with the movie, we put that kite up in the sky, and we know there's a storm coming. You can feel the electricity in the air, and then you capture something spectacular, and the guy gets up off the floor covered in blood, and he's like, "Did we get it?" And you're like, There's so much beyond got it. The physics was on our side today." And I really think like that surprise every single day. If you're especially on an independent film, you're getting lucky or being blessed by the movie gods or whatever it is, seeing that wonderful surprise of the magic that just you could never have planned is like every day it's the best feeling. And then you get to post and you're like, "Oh my God, we should have never had a goat." But the mean one has a goat, and we used to laugh about this goat. Every time it comes up, the crew laughs because we were like, "How are we going to get this goat?" It's like in the script that there's a goat. And the owner had a goat at the location we were already at. And they were like, "Hey," I was like, can we use your goat?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll bring it out." And everyone's like, we thought it was going to be like special effects or whatever. This is a tiny little movie. And we're like, "No, we got that damn goat." And we should have never had that goat. Movie magic. I love it.
Yeah, I love that too, and I love the way you phrased it. Especially when you saying the planning, because I do think if you can plan all you want, but if you do plan and you get too emotional about your plan, it can only go as well as you had planned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're willing and open as you are to magic happening, then it can happen. It can go greater than you planned. But
Definitely.
you have to be open to that. Same with the actors taking creative choices in their auditions on set. Willing to be a collaborator, not being afraid or stressed, to making sure they hit their mark of their lines. I think all artists should be open to what's happening in the moment.
Well, and I think too, if you have a good plan, then you have something to deviate from. If you have no plan, then first you have to figure out what it is, and then if there's time, explore. Whereas if we come in with a plan, we're all going to do the thing we agreed to, or we come in with an idea of what this is going to be, then we have the freedom to play. We've done that once. Now let's try something different. And I think that's why preparation is so important to being able to go off script, because we know it's going to fit together. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy is when with actors, anyone really, any crew, but actors have the most control because they're right there. When they deviate from the script so aggressively that it doesn't fit in with the next scene or the tone of the movie, if you have the whole script, or where your character is going. And so I think it's great to be able to experiment, but if you know that in the next scene you're supposed to be asleep, then it doesn't really make sense for you to be chugging a big cup of coffee in the scene or making a choice like that.
Yeah.
So, but I think the preparation is what lets you be able to experiment and play and come in and knowing like, okay, I'm open to what's going to happen. There's a reason why I won't, we don't shoot your close up first. We want you to be able to warm up and, get through a few takes of the wide shot where we won't even really see the nuance of your face in this scene. And then once we get to the close up, you've had a few takes to, you've gotten warmed up, and then we're able to really get that monologue or that emotional moment. And that's, to me, that's part of planning too, is, okay, I worked with this actor. We've been together for a week or 2 weeks at this point. I know this is a big scene. They're going to get it right out of the gate. We should start close and not burn them out because they're going to hit it hard right at the top. And then there's other actors you work with where they have to warm up to it and feel it out. And it's, we want to really make sure that if they're going to really go for it and commit physically or emotionally to a moment, that we've given them that runway and built up to that. And it's really cool too that a lot of times there can be this like us versus them on the crew side versus the folks who are on camera. And if you're working with a great crew, that's not the case. We want to see an actor succeed. We want to set you up for success. Sometimes some crew members, between cell phones and just trying to book other jobs and when's lunch going to get here, sometimes, that noise can be distracting to an actor, and you can't help yourself. It just happens, right? But I think, the DP wants to see you succeed, wants to make it, doesn't want you to look good, but also wants you to be able to give that performance. So we're all rooting for you. And I think that's what makes it really cool is we can sort of plan and work together to set you up for success. And then, when an actor wins, we all win, because the most beautiful shot with a less than effective performance is we all get blamed for that. So,
Yeah.
it
You
really
especially
is.
as the
And to me
director.
especially, yes. Well, I always like to say, a compliment I like to pay people is like, oh, that was great. I'm going to take credit for it later. And the people laugh. I'm like, oh, I'm going to probably get blamed if it's bad and lauded if it's good. So I might as well be upfront about it and say, great choice. I'm going to take credit for that later. Except what you did. You were on set. Everything you did, that's all you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did have a set visit.
Unless they don't like it, in which case that was my fault.
All your fault.
That's right.
I learned a lot on my set visit with you. I really got to watch you be a leader who stayed at a really excited but calm level all day. And I was thinking the phrase set up for success while you were speaking about a minute and a half ago, and then it came out of your mouth. I think you set people up for success. And every director doesn't do that. So I think actors should be aware that they won't all do that. But notice if they are, because I think that is where you can feel the most confident. And if they're not setting you up for success, then you have to set yourself up for success. But that's such a wonderful thing that you're doing. And I think that that's going to lead to a very long career for you, because you're going to set up everybody for success around you.
I appreciate that. I mean, look, I think that there is an element to directing to control the controlled chaos, and the tone of the set, the pacing, the vibe, what we will and won't tolerate professionally and otherwise. That all comes from the top. And sometimes the director can feel like they're really removed from the process, and sometimes, even if we seem removed, we feel like we're strapped to the front of this train. I mean, it's going. Sometimes it's, I'm the mermaid on the front of the boat. Like I'm first one going down if we hit an iceberg. But I do think that you have to create that environment and, be a cheerleader for the film, but also make sure people know what we will and won't accept. And, am I being particular because I have, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or, am I demanding excellence? Am I, why am I asking you to do what I'm asking you to do? And sometimes, like, actors and crew and everybody, you're doing your thing. I have to be doing everyone's thing, or, and sort of keeping an eye on, the phones ringing from the distributor, and like, is a boat's about to go by, so it's going to screw up the sound, and this person hasn't hit their mark, so we need to adjust the lighting, or the I mean, there's so many things that are all of the plates that are spinning, and I think as a director, it's your job to make sure nobody knows that, and I'm told that crews try to make sure the director doesn't know that, and so we're all just trying to be calm like ducks, just calm on the outside and flailing underneath the water.
Oh, I can say firsthand from watching that I didn't see anything other than just a good time, like
great.
a fun time. And I think if you're having fun, they're having fun. The audience is having fun. And again, it's not even about everyone on set. It's about the audience. Like, they're the ones who are going to make the film or break the film. So if you're having a good time, hopefully they do too. And they should.
I mean, that's why we do it. I mean, we're here to entertain. It's the entertainment business. And, our film's a horror comedy. So it's meant to be a fun time at the movies, right? We did an 11 o'clock showing at a horror convention this weekend. And some people couldn't see the screen. And sometimes the sound was a little weird because the room was so packed. And it's like midnight. And they're laughing, they're screaming, people are drinking, maybe drunk. I don't know. I can't be sure. But like, we just want people to have a good time. And I think if we get... Obviously, there's movies with the message, and that are trying to advance a cause, and those things matter too. But when you're making like a piece of entertainment, all right, everybody relax. We're not curing cancer. If all goes to plan, no one's gonna die unless that's on purpose. Let's just have fun with it, And I think that being able to create an environment where we can feel open to explore and create, while staying focused, because if it drifts too far off of the plan, we don't get our shots, or we have something that's not going to cut together. And with a movie that has this many effects and gags and gore and things we have to shoot on multiple days, scheduling constraints of being an independent film, it's important that like the jigsaw puzzle will come back together in the end. And so it's, you have to just trust your team and trust your collaborators, and know that if we're all playing the same music at the same time, then like we're going to get a great song.
Hell yeah. Well, and speaking of explore, last question for you. What do you want to do next? Do you have a dream project that you'd like to get out there?
A dream? I do have a dream project. I have dreamt since before it was cool of making a superhero movie. I've always wanted to make a superhero movie. I was going to conventions before it was cool to go to conventions, before movies played, you know, oh, you got to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Like I was doing cons when I was like 8. So I've always wanted to make a superhero movie. And my favorite superhero is Superman. So that one's taken currently. But, you know, if they get a sequel, fingers crossed, holler at your boy. But I really think my, like...
I remember putting your name in the hat for something.
Well, that's the thing. That's the one is you're really thinking about of like, oh, what's the superhero movie I'd love to make? I would love to do Blade, honestly. And there is actually a vacancy, I think, for that right now. So if anybody's watching, put me in, coach.
We're going to hashtag the hell out of Blade for that.
But realistically, I mean, he's a superhero, which I love. He's... you know, there's sword work, there's fight scenes, there's shooting and pyro, but also it's horror, it's dark, it's monstrous. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And I remember watching the first one being like, oh, a superhero movie doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, tights and colors. It can be dark and it can be gritty and but still be fun and playful, because who doesn't love seeing like a awesome superhero slicing up vampires and riding a motorcycle? It's amazing.
That's amazing. Oh, I hope that happens for you. You know what? I think it's going to. And, you know, to all the studio heads watching, he's available.
I'm available.
His film is coming out April 2nd. I don't know when this is going to air, maybe around April 2nd. But I really believe that's going to happen for you. And I'm so grateful that you are here in that seat today, helping educate, you know, our audiences. And I wish you so much success, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
As a thank you for being here,
you
do win a free car.
Hey, I love it.
So don't look, but feel free to reach your hand in here and pick out a free car.
Oh, goodness. Okay, we'll see. This, you know, this won't be the first car I've won.
What did you win before?
I won two cars on a game show.
Really?
I did.
Which game show?
Let's Make a Deal.
No way.
Yeah, I was on their Christmas episode dressed as a reindeer. So if you have whatever the subscription service lets you see it, you can see me as a reindeer on Let's Make a Deal.
This car will cost you less than taxes.
Okay, great. Well, yeah. All right, let's see what do we got here.
What'd you get?
Oh, a red Tesla. It's eco-friendly, and it's my favorite color. Look at that.
There you go.
That's awesome.
All right, no more gas for you.
That's it. Is there a charging station nearby? I think that'd be helpful.
Actually, the owner of Jesse, the owner of this home, has a Tesla with a charging in the garage, so you can get out of here pretty easily.
Honestly, it says it's fully charged and ready to roll, so we're totally fine. Oh man, this is great. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Steven.
I think it can be really daunting and tough for actors sometimes to feel like we're not on their side and everyone is like whether it's the industry or the crew or the process is like it's all working against you. You're yelling into a void. You're sending tapes. Does anyone care? I get why people would feel that, but if there's anything I can impart as a person who sits on this side of the table, this side of the monitor, it's that we don't have movies without actors, and it's okay to be vulnerable because that's part of the job, and like your job matters. Stick with it because we collaborating with an actor, like we can edit things and we can light things and we can blow things up, but like we work with a great actor, you see a great performance, it's real magic, and it's worth sticking with.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. What a special episode. And if you would like to be a guest on our show because you got your own cool story with an educational lesson, pitch it right to us. It's talentagenttalk@gmail.com. Again, that's talentagenttalk@gmail.com. And thank you to Jesse Malinowski and Get Seen for producing our show. Love doing this.
And make sure to see Screamboat. See
Look at this free shirt
Screamboat.
I got.
See Screamboat.
You'll be able to buy them soon.
In theaters, April 2nd, right? We get one big, awesome week, and there's no guarantee we get extended to a second week. So we need people to get out there. April 2nd, see the movie. Come Wednesday, come Thursday. Bring your friends, bring your enemies. Make a friend, bring them to the movie. Sometimes I encourage people, if they want to sit, they could put their feet up. They can buy a seat in front of them. You want to stretch your arms out, buy 2 seats next to you. I'm just saying, see the movie.
And if you're in Atlanta, I'll go see it with you. I want to go.
Hey,
I'm
there
going to
you
see
go.
it a couple of times.
That's right. He'll buy your ticket, everyone. Just hit that email
Everybody's
address.
tickets.
He's going to buy them all.
Just send me your receipts if you buy them yourself.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.